All right, so number the 3A on our list, the first thing that we'll discuss this evening is the capital improvements project list of 2020. Is that David Bennett or Mike?
I think that's Mike and Jared.
Okay,
Yes,
Mike.
sir. Yeah, I'll be more than happy to take the lead on this, and it's good to see all you guys again. I know we haven't had a chance to spend much time together lately, so it's good to see everyone. Kind of what our intent to do on this is the list had been updated in the spring of 2020, and what we would like to do is revisit this list one final time. Decide. I know that there are some items that are still on this list that from the feedback I've heard before, we maybe need to be taken out of consideration at this time. I know that there's at least one major item on this list that has been completed and that we need to take off at this time, but it's just kind of to go back through this, get your thoughts, get your input, and see where, when we present this information again, and as we start working through some facility planning this fall, we kind of have an idea where this committee would like possibly some of these capital improvement projects to go. And so I would start, next slide, please. I would start with the one thing that we've talked about quite a bit is the district warehouse facility. If I would defer this back to you, Ty, and members, if my recollection is correct, we have decided that for the time being, we would like to take this item off of the improvement project list, but I would like to open that for discussion and make sure that I'm correct from that.
Yeah, Mike, I think after we walked it that evening and we've kind of had this on the list for quite a while, it's just a pretty non-student oriented project, and we need the space. It just seems like a good idea just to go ahead and put this one off the list for now.
Certainly. Next slide, please. It's a pleasure to talk about district-wide playground improvements because of your actions on Monday night. We're now in a position where we're going to really be able to enhance the equipment we have at our playgrounds, and as you can look at the 5 options there. You know, we are going to, the accessible routes were addressed in phase 1 of the project, and because of the work that has been put in and the plan that was presented by Jared and O'Connell Robertson, we were able to address play equipment, swings, covered playscapes, or covered shade canopies, and fall protection at every campus. So I would open this back up for any further discussion or final discussion. Any other input from Jared, Dr. Smith, or anyone else on, but we're really, really proud of this. And man, whenever our kids come and these projects are complete, it's going to really enhance the experience that they get to have when they're on our playgrounds at our elementary and pre-K campuses.
Hey, this is David Bennett. Just one thing to add to that. So we plan to start around August the 1st on this project, and the contractor is saying it's about a 90-day project. So it's going to move pretty quick. And before the kids get out of school, before Christmas break, we should be all wrapped up and ready to go. It'll probably be 10 degrees outside and too cold to go outside, but it will be done.
That was my question. So thank you, David. All right, Mike.
Okay, next slide, please. I guess let's go ahead and slide down to page 5. So this is one that I'm gonna make a recommendation. This was the item that kind of came out of some discussions when we were looking at some short-term fixes to campus capacity, maybe some non-bond fixes to campus capacity. I plan on once school resume, or once the transfer process is completely resolved or completed, I guess would be a better word to say. We had talked about, especially at the Chisholm Trail campus, that we felt like the addition of 2 portables, which would add 4 classrooms to that campus, and some looks at revisions of our transfer policy, that we felt like we could do some things to help control campus, to help control control the capacity issues that we were having at Chisholm Trail. I feel very good right now, and we'll be able to bring you more data next month, that the addition of those 4 additional classrooms and designating Chisholm Trail as a closed campus for the 2021 school year and adding additional teaching FTEs at that campus, I think you're going to see a much different picture of where that campus is for 2021 and probably at least the 2022 and 2023 school years. So my recommendation would be that at this time that we leave additions at Chisholm Trail Elementary up to probably a longer range facility planning process, and that we feel like we have done a short-term fix that will address these capacity issues for at least the next 2 school years and possibly 3. And I would open that up for discussion, but I feel like the 3 strategies, like I said, of portable buildings, closing the campus to new transfers for this school year, and adding additional FTEs has really helped us get a grip on what was a major issue for the last school year.
Anybody have any comments or questions on that? I noticed that the 2 portables are out there. Looks like they're raring and ready to go. So I think you guys have addressed this. And like I said, 2 years from now, we'll be looking at the big picture for some other things too. So I think y'all done a really good job of getting us to that point.
Ty, I appreciate you bringing that up. That's what I was going to weigh in on. I think a couple of these things, I appreciate Mike going through and taking a couple of these items off the list. I know that was a request of y'all's, and we're going to hammer through that on in this meeting. But there is a long-term discussion that we need to get to eventually with this group, and that's about facility planning long-term and the correlation with our demographer report and what we need. So I appreciate the focus on the short-term need, but we are going to have to start talking about that long-term need as well. I know my first facilities committee meeting that I was here for, I wasn't even hired yet. And y'all were talking about Southwest and how Southwest Elementary might be able to help with some of that. But we're going to need to get those discussions going again from a long-term point of view soon.
Any further discussion on Chisholm Trail? We'd be happy to try to answer questions. And I just want to kind of just say to this group that we'll come back. You know, we talked about solutions back in the fall of things that we felt like we could do in the short term that might give some relief to our most crowded and our campuses that were closest to being over capacity. And I'll look forward to bringing some of that data back to you guys and sharing it with you to see how effective we were and where we still have some issues that we may have to work through. And it may take some combination of a facility and a short-term and long-range plan to meet those needs. Can we slide to slide 7 or page 7? So this is one I'm going to defer a little bit of this discussion to our committee and to Dr. Smith and maybe Jared as well. This is the Northgate property item that's been on the capital improvements project. I will open this up because I feel like this is probably going to fall more in the lines of a long-term planning process as well, but I would open that for discussion as far as this particular list goes.
So I guess if I'm understanding correctly, we need to, I guess at some point pretty soon, button up the transfer or the trading of the property with the developer at some point. Is that kind of where we're at on this?
Yes, sir. That's one that is in my court. And the developer and I were going to meet about a month and a half ago. In the middle of COVID stuff, we had to postpone that. And so we'll follow up appropriately as needed on this one so we can move forward, Mike.
Okay. So let's move to page 11.
Excuse me, real quick.
Yes.
And maybe Jared can answer this. I'm looking at the prototype similar to okay, so this would be similar to our current schools, not the prototype of going up in the air. Is that correct?
That is correct. So when we were asked to look at this, we evaluated not only the existing prototype, which could fit. If you go to the next page, it shows one with a more condensed site fit. And then there's two options for a two-story, like you see on the bottom of the image, where only fourth and fifth are up. And then the following page is where it's evenly split, K through 2 on the first floor and 3 through 5 on the second floor.
So the concept with I guess it's the two-story concept that's in the bottom is workable. If we were to cut off that top section, we would still have enough land to do it and do it adequately. Am I right on that?
That's correct. Overall, the property is relatively small. We usually recommend 15 acres and above, and this comes in at about 14, but I've seen schools built on 8 acres for elementary schools.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Okay, Mike.
Okay, let's slide to slide 11 or page 11 of the presentation. I think this may be a similar discussion as to the last discussion, and that is that we discussed maybe some long-term solutions for the Southwest Elementary property. I would ask, David is going to be giving us an update on this property a little bit later in the meeting today. I do know that we have done some short-term fixes that are going to greatly enhance the experience that our kids and staff are going to have at that campus. I do think at this point, I would just open this up for discussion on, as far as Southwest Elementary School living in this capital improvement project list, if we would want to move forward with removing that from this list and putting it as part of a long-term facilities planning project, or whether we would still want to leave Southwest Elementary on this list now as we work through.
Just to let y'all in on a little secret, on my way home today to get to the Zoom meeting, I stopped by Southwest, and Dawn and Tammy let me in. I couldn't wait, and I walked that campus for about 20 minutes. It looks fantastic. We'll let David kind of give us an update on that. But I think with the addition of the air conditioner in the gym and all of the cosmetic improvements and things that we've worked on so far, and I know we've got maybe another phase into the classrooms maybe later, but I think we're in pretty good shape to get this off of the short-term list and start thinking about that long-term transition of this into a new facility on a bond project at some time. Anybody else?
Agreed. I'm really appreciative of all the work that's been done, and I know that they are as well. I can't wait to see it.
You okay with that, Jeff? Taking this off short-term, putting it on long-term?
No, I agree.
All right, Mike, next.
Okay. So if we can go to page 13. I'll give a slight background on this one. I'm not quite as familiar as maybe I should have gotten caught up. This is the Career and Technology, or CTE, at Belton High School. And we had talked about possibly some enhancements that may be needed at some point to that project. I know that at the time that this was originally put on, we were still at that point talking about Lake Belton High School, and since that time, since this was first presented, we've put a automotive program or an automotive shop in at Lake Belton. We've also put a greenhouse in at Lake Belton. So I know some of the things that were initially addressed in this have been since remedied. But I do know that there was some discussion about maybe some enhancements at Belton High School, and I would probably defer this as well, whether this would live on our capital projects or whether this would be part of a long-range facility study and part of a long-range plan. And I would open that up for discussion as well.
Board, if you remember right, I had Stephanie Ferguson join us at the May meeting to start to talk about these things as well. And Stephanie is developing some guidelines for us and some ideas for us for the future that we'll include in a long-term facilities plan. We know that equity regarding facilities is going to be a concern with the opening of Lake Belton High School, and that we have some investments we need to make in those CTE facilities at Belton High School. And Stephanie is taking a look at what the most important investments would be and to see if that has changed at all since her 2018 work with O'Connell Robertson. So that's where we left it after our May meeting.
I personally would like to have this left on the list and maybe even moved up in priority on this list for what Dr. Smith just mentioned from an equity standpoint. Walking Lake Belton, obviously they're, brand new and they've got everything. I think health sciences and ag and some of those things are definitely some things that we're lagging behind on maybe at Belton High School. Obviously with the COVID situation, I think 3 or 4 months ago, we were probably looking at being able to spend some money here pretty soon and maybe addressing this pretty quickly. But I think now we're kind of in a hold mode, but I'd like to see this left on this list. So whenever we do kind of get a little bit more clarity from a funding standpoint after, we kind of figure out what this COVID thing's going to do, maybe we can move forward with this. CTE is a huge part of what we're trying to accomplish in this overall approach to preparing kids for the rest of their lives. And I'd hate for Belton High School to fall behind on this.
I would agree.
Understood. So what we will do is we will work on an update of this presentation with the input that we get from Stephanie Ferguson, and we will come back the next time we review this list with this committee, and we'll have an updated needs assessment at that time where we can kind of talk through what may be doable short-term and long-term for it to meet the needs of those programs. Is that acceptable, Ty?
That's perfect, Mike. Thank you.
Okay. Let's go to page 15. And I will refer a little bit this over to David Bennett as well. We did have some priorities that had been set at the BISD administration building. One was a new secure entrance. I'm happy to report that we were able to do that in-house and was able to get that done over. It initially was going to be done over spring break, but since the spring break was extended until July 6th, it was definitely done whenever we came back into the building. So we do have a secure vestibule in the front entrance to the admin building at this time. With the postponement of consideration of additional parking where the old gymnasium was located, I think we can probably strike number 2 off the list, which is additional public entrance in conjunction with new parking. I would recommend that number 3, departmental needs, has been met because we have renovated the 6th Street building and we'll have officing that will be moving from this building over to that building at some point in the fall. And David will give us an update on that facility as well. And then the 4th is wayfinding. And I think wayfinding is probably something that we will be able to handle in-house as far as signage and making sure people can head to the right departments and get where they need to be once they show up at this facility. So without additional considerations or maybe additional things we want to look at the administration building, I would say with the removal of the demolition at the old gymnasium, we're probably able to close this and take this one off the list as most needs have been addressed.
I'll have to say, I guess 2 weeks ago, I was over there at admin and walked in, and it was awesome to see that had been completed. Not only does it provide the security aspect, but it also protects our people up front with the COVID situation. They've got that plexiglass and all that stuff up there in the vestibule. So I was real pleased at that project. And I agree with your recommendation, Mike. I think it's time to move on from this part of it being on the list. Anybody have anything to say about that?
I have a quick question about the new secure entrance. So can people actually come into that down there by the classrooms and all of that and check in there now, or do you still have to go through the front?
Yeah, it's still the front door, isn't it, Mike?
Yeah, there's 2 check-in points, and we have two safety vestibules. Both are located here on the west side of the building. So you can enter through what was the old main entrance, where the district receptionist, Cheryl Tormey's located. That has a safety vestibule with the buzz in now. And then we also have one on the north west side of the building where human resources is located. There's an entrance. So the quickest way to enter for those classrooms, the Big Red Room, Tiger Room, or the Learning Lounge, would be to enter through the human resources side of the building. But we do have 2 secured vestibules with receptionists one for the human resources side of the building and one for the administrative side of the building.
That's going to be hugely helpful to be able to go in on that other side of the building and not have to walk around and all of that. So I appreciate that.
Yes, the two entrances on the east side of the building are both still, they remain locked. You have to have a key to get into those entrances.
Okay.
Okay, if we could go to slide 16. And this is the discussion on the Belton High School baseball and softball potential turf projects on the fields. I know this has been on something that's been in some form of discussion for several years now, and I would open this up for discussion. I know we have Sam on the call, Dr. Smith, and we may want to get to a point where we have either a more information needed or a recommendation on whether we want to get more information on this project or we want to table this project. But I would open that up for discussion.
Mike, it's my understanding after our May meeting that this is one that's been tabled for the future. I believe Sam weighed in on it and said that the current baseball and softball fields were okay at Belton High School, and that we actually had preferred some grass fields there, and they're well kept and in good shape. And if I'm not mistaken, this is one that has been put on hold.
And I'll weigh in. In fact, we just spent some money on leveling both the baseball and softball fields and taking the lips out. So they are in very good shape, and the Lake Belton turf fields are available for use for Belton High School. If we get weather problems and we can't get on the fields, that's when those facilities will be shared.
And Sam, didn't we also, or y'all would all know this, but we also did the lighting, and didn't we redo the netting as well?
We redid the lightings. We did the LED lightings at Belton High School to fix the safety issue, and the netting is about a year out. We'll be replacing that next year on the netting for baseball, softball. Both Coach Kruger and Coach Blackburn, while he was still at Belton High School, checked the netting, and it was still in good shape.
Okay, so that would be the only part left on there. I think besides that, we are done.
Excellent. That's great to hear. And yeah, the lighting really looks good. It was such a shame that our kids didn't get to see the benefit of it to finish their season out, but the lighting looks really great over there. And yeah, like you said, we really do have a quality natural turf or natural surfaces there that are well kept and maintained by our ground staff, and it's really a nice facility. So we will table and we will pull that off the capital improvement project list at this time. Page 17, please. So this is another one. I think that when we had our previous discussion, we did discuss tennis courts a little bit. I would like to open this one back up and kind of see where we are in current thinking and what we may need to do moving forward on information on this item.
I know that this thing's been on the list for a really, really long time. I know that with the addition of the new high school, it's going to take some pressure off of these courts. But from my understanding of visiting with the tennis coaches, with the number of courts that we have, they can't put on a full meal deal, money-making tennis tournament at this campus. And so I think this is definitely something to still keep on the list. From an equity standpoint, remember we talk a lot about the equity between the two campuses. I'd like to see this one left on if we could.
Sam, are we to a point where we would like to talk specifically about exactly what we think we would need to make it equitable and to give them a first-rate facility, and where we could actually get some pricing on what that might look like?
Yeah, I think if we're to that point to see if it's pricing wise, but I think a big deal is going to be where we're going to be at numbers wise. Moving forward with the split will have to be a determining factor as well, I think, in our thought process. But I think we are to that point on seeing the pricing of it.
Would the recommendation from Ty, would that be probably to look at, if we're talking about an equitable situation, it would be the addition of two courts so where the courts at Belton High School would equal the courts at Lake Belton High School?
I think the plan that I've seen that made the most sense to me, and my daughter was a tennis player for several years, and I got to tour local facilities with other tennis tournaments. I think having the 2 extra courts plus having a awning with bathrooms and an area to get out of the weather, something like that is kind of the plan that would make the most sense to me.
Okay.
Quick question. While we have a little bit of, do we buy ourselves a little bit of time? And we're more than doubling our capacity by opening up Lake Belton High School right now. And although this needs to stay on our radar, do we buy ourselves a little bit of time by opening that up and give us time? We don't have to act on this right now, right? We were bought a little bit of time with the new high school, and if it, see what the numbers turn out like. Is this something that we could be looking at maybe in a 24-month time frame? We did double capacity, Sam. I mean, is 24 months something that maybe we need to be looking out?
And we also still have the access to UMHB courts that we use for our middle schools for Belton High School feeders. So we have the access to UMHB's tennis courts that we use on a daily basis for some of the Belton High School feeder middle schools. We also have access to the Cross Timbers tennis courts that the city of Temple lets us use for free over there as well, over in West Temple. So we have access to plenty of tennis courts. The actual practices and stuff is not a problem. We have purchased new windscreens that will be going up on the tennis courts in the next by August 31st. Those windscreens will be up, giving that place a facelift at Belton High School. So it's not a immediate need for capacity issues for practices or even competitions.
Jeff, from my recollection after the last meeting, this was supposed to remain on the list, but we had to talk a little bit about funding options, and we do have a little bit more time than it's not an immediate need. But back to Ty's point, the equity concern is one that was driving it to stay on the list.
Yeah, I think it has to stay on our radar, and we can't forget about it. I just was hoping we bought ourselves a little bit of time given the unknown of the financial situation right now. And then one more question on this. Is there, and I'm looking at the diagram, so there is actually room in that one area if you were going to put another one? It does exist, is that correct?
Yes, sir. There is room between the end of the tennis courts and the driveway for the.
Yeah, I'm looking at it on the map. So, okay.
So what we will bring back the next time you see this list, we will come back with some updated specs for 2 courts with possibly some type of covered pavilion, and we'll get some updated pricing since this pricing is several years old on that. So we would have our most current information when we do decide to make a decision. We won't be working with old data at that point.
And the only thing maybe from a short-term standpoint, I just know as a stakeholder and someone who had sat trying to watch my kid play in that facility, it was not comfortable at all. 3 bleacher high in the elements. Is there any way we could maybe look at doing some cover maybe on the west side bleachers, just for the folks that are there trying to watch, just, get them out of the sun or get them out of the elements a little bit maybe?
Ty, we'd be glad to have Sam and David and our team take a look at that and talk about what that might include for funding and stuff moving forward as well. But yeah, we can definitely put that on our radar.
And we're also exploring the old elementary bleachers that are on the south end of Tiger Field, of relocating that to the tennis courts to get the bigger bleachers on those ends down there. Me and Coach Stinson are working through that process right now.
Which bleachers?
The bleachers that are in the old elementary section at Tiger Field that are on the scoreboard side, they're about 12 rows high.
Oh, okay. Okay, I know what you're talking about.
That we
okay.
moved out there.
I was trying to get it in my head. Now I know what you're talking about.
All right, Mike.
Okay, let's slide to slide 18. I think that I think some of these will probably be addressed by David in the next presentation, and I would ask for his opinion now. David, do you feel like some of these have some of these needs been addressed? And if so, I guess I would discuss if we want to take this off our long-term capital improvement project list.
Mike, the only thing we have done at Miller Heights is the painting, and we have done some of the restrooms as far as putting the miracle method on the floor and changing out the toilet partitions. Wall protection, I think they're talking about the P-lam panels like we're doing over at Southwest. We've not done anything there. I would agree that the floor and probably updating that would be a better word to what we're doing at Southwest would be something that we could certainly do in the future.
But that would probably potentially like a summer 2021 project or an in-house project, something along those lines is what we would probably be considering.
Yeah.
What Ty would y'all feel comfortable taking this off the long-term capital improvement project and letting us move this more to a study and look at it if it's something that we can do in-house over a summer project?
Absolutely. I think that's definitely, especially after leaving Southwest today and seeing what we've been able to accomplish, I think that's the right move.
I agree.
I will make one comment in this, and this is once again, I want to continually bring this up. This is part of something that we need to talk about in long-term facility planning. Miller Heights Elementary School, Southwest Elementary School, David and his team have been doing great work in helping to give them both a facelift, but we have long-term needs because of Chisholm Trail in the south. And we also know, and I've been on those campuses looking, we have portables that have been ingrained in the facility over a number of years in those schools that I still have major concerns about. When we talk about equity of facilities, these two buildings, we have some long-term discussions we need to get into.
Matt, so how do we fit that into our not obviously today, but how do we go about starting those conversations from a long-term standpoint? Because we know that if we're going to talk a long-term standpoint, what we're talking about is bond funds to rebuild schools in those areas. Because we've all agreed that those schools have to stay where they're at, and how do we do it? So we were talking about bonds. What's our time frame to move in something like that? What are you visualizing there?
Yeah, I think that we're at our next meeting of the facilities committee. I think we need to talk about doing another assessment of our current facilities in our school district, and a long-term facilities plan needs to be developed in coordination with our strategic plan that we've been talking about with the board. So let me be really quick, but try and bring these two things together. A strategic plan helps set direction for a community, and our board would adopt a strategic plan. It's what the community wants for Belton ISD schools for the future, kind of that long-term vision. A facilities plan is a part of that strategic plan. It's my understanding our last one was developed with O'Connell Robertson about 2018. I think they did an in-depth study, and I think that's what we're taking a look at some of these on here. I think we're going to need to actually do another study with current administration and current board, and to make sure that we're all on the same page of what we want moving forward. Because again, these two facilities, I agree with you, they are neighborhood schools that mean a lot to those communities, and we want to figure out how to best serve those communities, but the facilities concern me immensely long-term. We'll bring this to y'all at the next facilities committee meeting and start talking about what a project timeline would be for doing that facility study.
Okay, thank you.
And something else, Matt, on that, taking a look at repurposing possibly the Leon Heights campus. You know, we're below 250 students over there, and that facility is one of our 3 old ones. So, you know, that on the list too. So.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Can we go to page 19? I'm really excited to look at page 19 because Sam and David could give us a brief update, but we've had a project going on over there this summer, and that press box will have a definitely new look this fall. So I'll let Sam kind of talk about that and David, and kind of give y'all an update on what we've done with the press box over at Tiger Field.
I'll let David go. He's done all the heavy lifting.
Oh, I was going to let you speak. Well, we are just about finished. In fact, we are. The millwork guys are putting the countertops in today, and then they'll put the plastic laminate on tomorrow. So basically, we've opened the space up. Of course, the box is the box, so we didn't gain any square footage, but we opened it up and made it more user friendly. And we've got new ceilings in there, new floor in there. We've painted the walls. The thing I'm most proud of is we put in a new HVAC system. And you can, for the first time since I've been in this district, you can actually get it pretty dang cool up there. So that's going to be really, really nice. So I would say by this Friday, I'm going to turn the keys over to Sam and tell him it's his. I know the only thing we are waiting on is he did order some chairs or stools, whatever. Are they stools or chairs, Sam, or a little bit of both?
There's stools and chairs, and for the back areas, we ordered stools, and David and Oscar and his group did a great job really opening up that one end of the facility, so it doesn't look like a bunch of little cubicles. And the main thing that I'm really happy about is now our coaches are secured off, so everybody's not hearing everything that's being said or plays being called from downstairs. And we've kind of secured our coaches, and we've opened up where we can have both home and visiting radio over there. Because I know we had some issues last year when Temple was here getting the radio signal over to the home stands to get it sent out. So we fixed a lot of issues. They've done a really good job with the space that's available, and it really looks nice. And it's going to be a really nice place to have coaches and have room to allow multiple scouts up there and media. And it's a really good work.
Thank you.
So basically, I guess we need to scrub this one off the short term, and then we probably, in the same time frame as we start looking at the new elementary and bonds, we need to take a real hard look at pretty major demolition of this old press box with that same bond, possibly, and making it a facility for a 2 high school thing that we're going to have in a couple years, as well as being an attractive facility to host playoff games and things like that. I think maybe that's something to look at on our long-term outlook, as well as maybe a field house in the south end zone down there for Lake Belton when they're over there. I know we've kind of given them a little bit of an area at this point, but somewhere down the line, I think they're going to want a nicer facility when they come over to this facility.
Yeah, and long-term, there's quite a bit of work that needs to be done over there. I'm sure all of you have seen the condition of the concrete underneath the bleachers. That was really not done properly originally, and we need to address that. So I would say when we talk about long-range plan, let's don't forget that item.
I think we would recommend definitely when we do our facility assessment and whomever we work with to do that, we will need to get an assessment of that stadium and be able to come back and report to the board and to you guys on what we find with that. I do think that I could make a recommendation now, though, that we take this off the capital, this individual item off the capital improvement list, because what we're going to have is a lot better than what we have had, and it's going to be very functional as we move into this fall. So, is everyone, we agreed with that, Ty? And
Absolutely. Yeah, let's move on.
okay. Well, I feel like I really felt like it was important, and we felt like it was important to come in and revisit this list one more time, see which ones need to be updated moving forward, see which ones needed to be either moved to a local project list or taken off because it either was not a priority for us any longer or we had completed the project. So I feel really good about that discussion. I feel good about where we are. And as we start the process of talking about a long range facility project, I thought it was important for us to just spend a few minutes and kind of clean this list up today. So thank you for that. And if there's any other comments, but if not, I feel like that was a very productive time spent.
Mike, I want to chime in real quick. So a couple of things, board. I think you know this, but prior to me starting in the district, Robin had arranged for the athletic facilities review with you all, and Sam came and did that shortly after Robin left, and I was here, and we did it, I think, via Zoom. Maybe we did it face-to-face. I can't remember anymore right now. But we talked athletics. What we did not do is we have not talked fine arts. And Keith Zulke, I believe, was planned to present in April-ish or so. And since we have been in the middle of this COVID stuff, we have not done that. So I just want to make sure we point out that there are other pieces of the puzzle that are not represented in some of these facility plans here that we probably do need to discuss a little bit further. But special thanks to Mike for leading us through that list that we currently have in front of us and helping us to cross some of those items off.
And I guess not talking about the elephant in the room, but it's the big tiger shark in the room. We really need to have that swim facility that's always kind of lurking out there that needs attention, I think, on that long-term thing as well.
Yeah, Ty, I think that's how we see that as well. That needs to be part of that assessment and that really big discussion for strategic, long-term strategic facilities planning.
I wanted to take some time just to briefly remind the committee that we do anticipate having some remaining funds left due to savings from the 2017 bond authorization. And as we look at this list, please, I want you to keep in mind that we do have those funds available. And right now we're projecting about $5 million for the savings. That number, of course, could change as we close out the projects, but that's where we are right now. And I think a few months ago, I mentioned that one good use of the funds could possibly be the playgrounds, that 2.1 million, shifting that expense from general fund to these remaining bond funds, simply because we are still looking into where we're going to be due to the House Bill 3, but now the pandemic. So we want to try to preserve or reserve as much fund balance as we can to help us through any unforeseen circumstances with our general fund budget. So at this point, we are planning to move forward with the funding of the playground structures from the 2017 remaining bond funds. So that would still give us well over $3 million to think about these projects and prioritize those remaining funds. Matt, did you have something?
Yeah, just to be clear for the board, what happens to that remaining bond fund money if you do not spend it on facilities? Does that go into fund balance as well for the school district, or does that have to be used in a different capacity?
So the remaining bond funds have to be used for a specific bond purpose. We're able to use any remaining bond funds for any items that are to outfit, update, or remodel a school and or technology. So we do have that, and I've already checked with our bond counsel. He said that this would be a wise use of those funds, as well as some of the other things on the list, because I do want to remind us that when we think about a bond, we have to be cognizant of the fact that the new legislation that came out will mandate us to put certain items on a single proposition alone, such as stadium or athletic facilities, any natatorium, performing arts center, so on and so forth. So as we look at the remaining bond funds and look at the projects that are on this list, it might be extremely prudent of us to try to tackle one of these items so that we don't have to put it on a separate bond proposition. Just my recommendation, but we will know more as we continue to close out the projects. And one thing that we do want to do is make sure that we use all of our bond funds in a timely fashion. I don't think it would be wise if we are going out for another bond proposition and we still have a lot of remaining bond funds available from the 2017 authorization.
Thank you, Jennifer. And just to be clear for our board, so there are facility use for those remaining bond funds and technology use for those remaining bond funds that we can discuss. I just wanted to make sure that was pointed out for you all, that it doesn't just automatically roll over into our fund balance or anything like that. We have specific uses we have to use that for.
So Jennifer, just a quick question. When we were talking about the fund balance in the Monday meeting, we were talking about having 5 months of expenditures in there, which is what, about 2 months more than what really the state asks us to have, but we're kind of holding out. So if we move that money from the 2017 bond to take care of the playground stuff, does that leave us at that 5-month, or does that increase us even more with that extra $2 million in that part of it?
Well, if we move the playground equipment purchase from general fund to the 2017 bond, Ty, is that what you asked?
That's correct. Does that leave us at the 5 months, or does that give us an extra $2 million that we're not going to have to take out of that part of our budget?
It would leave us where we are or where we anticipate being, because I actually have not included that $2.1 million in this year's budget, because those funds were supposed to come out of our reserves. So I would have to add an additional $2.1 million to general fund budget. So instead of possibly having a surplus, it would change that amount.
Thank you, Jennifer. All right, so I guess we'll move forward, and the next item on our agenda is an update on the improvements list. And I guess this is where David Bennett comes into play.
Well, thank you. Well, we're turning it red. I feel really good about where we are today. So just a brief update of what we've completed since we last talked. We have completed the swim center equipment installation. That's all complete now. And as Michael said, we have completed the special ed offices on 6th Avenue, and they were actually installing furniture there today. We painted Miller Heights hallways and doors, and we've also painted Purtle hallways and doors. Charlotte Smith had an issue with Sparta with sick kids and well kids, so we've taken some storage space that Sparta administration area was using. We converted that into an enlarged nurse's office, and wasn't really big amount of work, but it took a little doing. But we've got that completed. And as we said a while ago, we've completed the press box. A couple of things that were not on the list. We added 3 classrooms to DAEP, just subdividing some space to give them some more classrooms. And also we added 1 classroom by subdividing a larger classroom at Beck's. We replaced the carpet over at Lakewood administration area. And again, that item was not on the list, but we had a leak over there earlier in the year, and it was just not going, that smell was not going to go away. So we just decided that we would replace that carpet. And I paid for that out of our facilities budget. And then, of course, we've completed our portable installation over at Chisholm Trail. The only thing we like to do over there is to pour the sidewalk from the ramps over to the existing sidewalk. And Lloyd next week will install the fire alarm system and the intercom system. And that facility will be ready to use. They really look good too. That was a wise choice, and thank y'all. I think we made a wise decision in purchasing those instead of leasing. A couple projects we've got on the slate for the next couple of weeks is the ventilation over at the Belton High School welding shop. They're going to start that Monday. The equipment finally arrived, and we're going to add a gravel lot over transportation for the overflow bus parking. And then the only thing we have to do over at Southwest, which again was not on the original list, was adding the plastic laminate panels in the hallway. And they are currently working on that as we speak and should be finished by Monday or Tuesday of next week. Other than that, the only things really, if you look through the list that are not red or green, are things that they're furniture in nature. They're additional space needs for campuses. Like DAP said, we need a physical ed area. Well, I agree with them, they do, but there's just nowhere in the building. So that's going to be some of the long range planning discussion items that we have to talk about. And then, of course, we're still, my department is still anticipating school starts back on August the 19th. So we're getting all the campuses ready, double checking all the HVAC systems, plumbing systems, making sure everything's working. So we will be ready to go on August the 19th. Whether we go or not, we'll be ready. So does anyone have any questions?
David, I've got a couple questions over at Southwest. I was over there a little while ago, and you're right. They're putting those P-laps up all over down that one hallway. Everything looks outstanding. The floors, the paint. They were just so excited. One of the comments I heard was, "We can't wait till the kids come back to walk in and see." I think they need to. They're going to work on some branding there in that main hallway when you come in the front door. They're excited about that. Putting some stuff on the walls, everything. One question I have though is. They brought up one concern. I think we put all 4 of the bottle filler water fountains in one area, and they'd like to see 2 of those moved, one to the 3rd grade hallway and one near the nurses station, I think was a concern. And then I had a question about a couple of the bathrooms that were left with VCT. Was that an abatement issue is why we didn't take that out and put down that miracle method? Why didn't we go ahead and do that in those 2 bathrooms?
Well, where we put the miracle method, we put that over existing ceramic floors. That already had VCT, and you can't put the miracle method over that. One thing that we're looking at from the facilities department is, because we have a lot of campuses that still has VCT in the bathroom, whether it be old or new, is to remove that and put down that material that you and I discussed, like we're putting out at Lake Belton High School. It's an epoxy type material, and I think we will probably start going to that. So that's the reason. As far as the bottle fillers, we have those, Ty. Sean had mentioned that to me. We're going to leave the ones that we've already put up there. We've already got the other ones. We're just waiting for those guys to sort of get out of the way, and we'll install those.
Well, the vibe out there, the 2 principals walking me around, they were just so excited. It's like a teenager showing you their new car. They were just so excited. Y'all done a really good job out there, and on everything so far. Y'all done wonderful. I'd love to get over to 6th Street and take a look at that, and then I'd like to get up in that press box, take a look at that pretty soon.
Absolutely. Well, I tell you, I'm not going to pat myself on the back, but I will pat my staff on the back, because they have really worked hard, and a couple of them are going on vacation next week, and it's well deserved. They've really come through. At the beginning of this list, I looked at Oscar and I said, I think we've bitten off more than we can chew, but some way we figured out how to do it.
Well done.
And thank y'all for your support.
We're glad to give it.
Thank you.
Glad to give it.
All right. Are there any other comments on this section, or not? We're going to move on. All right. So the next item on the agenda is to review and discuss facility needs during the COVID-19 pandemic.
I just wanted to open this topic up to you as board members to be able to talk about anything that's on your mind, and to open it up to Mike and to tell you a little bit about what we're thinking about facilities. But I know this is something that people talk about on a regular basis, is how is COVID-19 impacting facilities in the state of Texas. And so this is really just a discussion item for y'all to ask any kind of questions that are on your mind. And Mike, feel free to chime in anything that you want to let the board know.
Sure. I will say, and this is kind of off the area of just facilities to the standpoint of, things we've needed to add or as mitigators. But there are some things that we've done from a purchasing standpoint, or are in the process of doing from a purchasing standpoint, that we do feel like are going to give our staff and our kids some tools to try to keep everyone as safe as possible. We've priced out and have in the process of getting some portable hand washing stations. The thing we really like about them being portable is you can kind of put them where you need them. You can, for elementary kids, you can have them as they're coming off the playground. You can have them there as another opportunity to wash. You can have them as they're coming into the cafeteria as a couple of more spots where they can stop and wash. And so we're excited about that. hand sanitizer everywhere. We're going to try to equip our buses, with hand sanitizer dispensers. We're going to have portable hand sanitizer dispensers at each campus, where same concepts with the portable washing stations. Upon arrival in the morning, you can have those available. Upon dismissal for lunch periods, you can have those available. Any events you have on campus for our secondary schools, you can have those available. And then as students disperse for the day, you can have those available as well. And then looking at little things, things like getting plexiglass desk shields for some of our receptionists and some of our some of our office staff that deals with public, deals with students, attendance clerks and things like that at the secondary campuses that deal with people all day long. And then just, getting some additional tools for our custodial staff as far as backpack misters. We've gotten some foggers for our high schools that can be, and secondary schools that can be used in weight rooms and locker rooms and things like that. So not so much facility stuff, but kind of just some equipment stuff, some tools that we can give our staff to really help try to clean and sanitize and disinfect these areas and keep our staff and kids as safe as we possibly can.
I
Hey,
did.
Mike,
Oh, go ahead, Jeff.
quick question. I know the secondary level, don't know as much about that one, but at the elementary school level, is there a product for our teachers? Because although we have the face masks and things, there's many times that, especially with some of our students, the teachers spend a lot of their day saying, watch my mouth. So they're working with these kids. Is there a product, be it a plexiglass shield or something, to where they can have that interaction, but have protection for the teachers, the aides, the students, that the teacher can take with them from place to place?
Sure, that's a great question. And we were had some of those same questions ourselves. And in the Tuesday before our workshop, we got some TEA guidance on that. And we can very much envision there's going to be times when teachers are going to probably want to wear a clear face shield instead of a mask. And that way the students can see their face, but they still have that level. There's also going to probably be a little bit of taking some teachers out of their comfort zone, is if they do have that mask off and have a face shield on, then they're probably going to want to be back just a little further. Obviously, if they're outside of 6 feet, then they can operate without a mask on and still feel safe under the guidance we're given. So those are really kind of 3 strategies and things that, as we work with our principals and unveil our plan and get ready to bring our teachers back on August 5th, that we'll definitely have discussions with them, make sure they have the tools that they feel comfortable with, whether it be a face covering, a plastic shield, or whether it just be distancing. So those are, yes, definitely some things that we've been considering, and we want to make sure our teachers have all those tools at their disposal.
Are there any of I know I've seen them, but are there plastic shields that a teacher could, sit down in a chair and sit it between them and a student and be able, does that exist?
There are some of those products that exist, and we're working through some of those ideas with our health services staff over whether that's a better alternative than just wearing a face shield. So we're still looking through some of those things, but there are some of those types of products similar to what we're looking at for our office staff that has to sit and have people come up and hand them paperwork and things like that. So. And
then my other question is in regards to our transportation. Are we going to put a shield around the driver, or do we have plans to do that? Do we know?
That was something we looked into very early, and the federal regulations that were handed back to us is you're not allowed to do that. So you cannot put by the federal guidelines, and which transportation and school nutrition are both governed heavily by federal guidelines. We cannot build any type of a plexiglass or any type of clear screen bubble or screen around our drivers. So we will rely heavily on PPEs. We'll rely heavily on hand washing and sanitizing and things like that. But we're going to do everything we can within the scope of what's allowed by federal and state regulations.
And then has there been any, and I only know because we did it in some of my offices, is there any point in purchasing and putting in the UV stuff into our air conditioning systems? I
actually have the CDC guidelines here for the air quality taped up, because David and I've been talking about that a little bit. because that's one of those things that it kind of hits, and some people have gotten really interested in that. And so we are looking at all options right now from a standpoint of what can we get here, what can we do, and looking at all of the data and the research we can find on HVAC systems and how much of an impact that CDC and other medical groups feel that that's having. So all options are on the table on that. I will say we haven't made any final decisions and no requisitions have been put in, whether it be increasing airflow just by running the systems more. We've talked about rooms that have return air versus rooms that don't have return air. We've talked about, I was reading a study this morning or yesterday evening about just having an open door, how much what a difference that possibly could make. And then there's also some filter options and some UV options like you just mentioned. And kind of all options are on the table on that. We're still trying to study that and make sure that if we do something, that it's the best thing we can do and have the biggest impact. We're also dealing with schools that are anywhere from 1 month old to 60 years old too. So that kind of makes it where we're in a little bit of different situation across our 21 or 22 facilities when we're talking about that.
Thank you.
I got a quick thing to just add to that. All those things you just detailed out about misters, foggers, hand sanitizers on buses. I would just highly recommend that when we roll out the plan to parents of what things are going to look like, that's included. I'm sure you guys are thinking about that, but I know parents would be very comforted to hear that list in detail and exactly where and how. And I mean, I know that I hear that a lot. They want to know those kind of details. So
thanks, Janet. And I'm very pleased to, and I don't have the data because I don't think the summer program ends on Friday, so we haven't calculated the data, but kind of our trial run on a lot of this stuff has been, we've had hundreds of kids on campus this summer doing our summer workout programs. And our staff and kids have done such a great job of distancing and wearing masks when they're supposed to, and sanitizing their equipment and keeping their hands clean. And y'all probably saw the video on Twitter, maybe, or Facebook, where the strength coaches were fogging down the weight equipment and things like that. So although it's going to be a heavy lift and it's going to be a lot of work, we do feel like we do have some tools at our disposal, and where we really are going to try to make people feel safe and confident as we can.
All right. I know I listened to one of the parent YouTubes this week and one of the faculties today, and I know that cleaning stuff was brought up several times, and I really appreciated how you handled that and your answers and all the work that you've put into that, Mike. I know that's a big deal, and I appreciate your hard work on that part of it as well as the rest of it. So, is there any issues or concerns for future agenda items or administrative reports? Anybody? I think the only question I have is looking at the list. We did the 3 classrooms at the DAEP. I had a request a while back about maybe looking at, I think they've added a counselor over there, and they were maybe looking at adding a little office space by adding a couple walls. Have we talked about that, Matt, with David?
So it's my understanding that when I talked to Robert Mueller about that was something that they'd considered before. I don't know the current status of it. David, do you have any kind of an update on that one?
I don't. I have not heard that, actually.
Okay. We'll dive into that a little more, Ty. I appreciate that.
Anybody else? We've got at least 2 more hours to go before we've actually hit our quota on school board meetings.
I want to point out, I want to be really clear with our board members that this was done at 5:05 p.m. and we started it. Well, I showed up at 4:02, so it was an hour and 3 minutes.
So Matt, what you're trying to say is that it's not all you. Is that what you're saying here?
I don't know if I said that. I'm being really careful on what I say on this one. I just appreciate seeing your smiling faces. I do want to say one quick thing. I've got Jennifer on here, Melinda on here, Connie, David, Daryl, Mike. These guys, Elizabeth, they're all rock stars, and I need y'all to know that. There is so much going on right now, and just going back to your question about air, Jeff, and what we might do with air filtering and UV and stuff like that. Mike and David have been talking about that for weeks and diving into things and really figuring stuff out. And I'm just very thankful for the team that we have on the call here. You see Jennifer Ramirez's face on here, and her just the amount of work that's going on regarding facilities and support for our staff and our students is nothing short of phenomenal. And I just need our team to hear that from my perspective as well, because with so many moving parts, it's easy for us not to say these things sometimes. And I needed them to hear this very publicly.
Thank you.
And you stole my thunder, Matt. I was going to close the meeting with that. I am just so proud to be a part of this BISD team, and watching you guys conduct these meetings and answering all these questions. And since the workshop last Wednesday that I caught up on later, my head's been spinning, the complexities and the layers of every single issue that you guys are dealing with, and you guys are shining like comets, and the community knows it and they appreciate it. And believe me, at the board, we talk about it. We really appreciate and respect all of y'all very, very much. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you.
All right. If there's nothing else, we're adjourned.